Okay, so the other day I managed to crack the screen on my ASUS R704A laptop. The result of working in the easy chair and putting the laptop down beside the chair on a lap desk and getting up and having the laptop slide off the lap desk and coming under the back of the chair pinched down on the bezel and cracked the display, and I got spider cracks that run down about 3 inches. LEDs leaked out and the display needs to be replaced. It is still functional, but the display is not to something I want to continue working off, even with the small amount of blur that occurs here in these little crack lines. So I am going to replace the display with a new screen. I ordered it off of the internet from screencountry.com. This is a factory replacement. It's a 17-inch widescreen for this particular laptop. It arrived in, I guess, about 3 or 4 days. About 4 days. Today is Thursday, October 16th, 2014, and I ordered it on Saturday or Sunday, I believe. Figured shipped on Monday, 3 days, and it's here. Now it's time to actually do the replacement. Came with toolkit, and I also ordered a replacement for my daughter's iPhone screen from them as well. She had an unfortunate event, which perhaps I'll do a video showing that, but this is a lot easier than the iPhone. Came with a toolkit. I've already spliced open the package with my pocket knife, and in here are a number of small tools. I have some of my tools I pulled out of my actual toolkit. I happen to work in the industry, not as a technician for this, but as an engineer, and I design systems and software and hardware for aviation purposes, so I have a little experience with tools. I've never replaced a screen on this particular laptop, so we'll see how it goes. So the first thing I do is remove 2 rubber caps to secure behind it some screws. So I'll just use a small flathead screwdriver or a pick to try to pull out the rubber cap without causing it to be damaged or deformed. It's one rubber cap. I'm going to put this back here. There's another rubber cap. Rubber cap number 2. And I have the camera on a tripod. Make sure that it's covering the screen. Looks like I might need to adjust a little bit. There we go. Crack, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, was right here. And it is, it's not a huge crack, but I don't like to work on something that kind of looks beat up and causes me to not have to work on this area here. This is a non-magnetic Phillips head screwdriver. It's designed for this type of work. It's a PC repair toolkit, which is from Tools to Go. It's a professional kit I use in my daily activities. 1 screw. The screw has a little bit of thread lock on it. It's blue thread lock. Actually came out pretty easy, and the thread lock looks like I can go ahead and reuse it again. I'm not going to worry about putting thread lock on that at this point to replace it. Screw number 2. They are the same. Now the next part is to remove the bezel here. Sometimes requires a small tool to get under here. Just kind of working it around gently. Basically, I insert the tip underneath the bezel, give a little twist to pry, and scooch up a little bit. Come up underneath here. On the outside now. And I'm supporting the bezel as I move along to reduce stress in the plastic so I don't split the bezel. Now this has a built-in webcam in this area, so I'm going to be gentle here because I don't know where the wire placement behind it is, and I don't want to plop something. Okay. Now I'm just going to run down along the front. Okay. Now, bezel's removed. Check for any damage as a result of the pressure from the chair. There was no surface damage. The back is clean as well. No damage in this corner. The crack again is here. So I'm good to use this again. Just while I have it off, I'll clean a little of the dust off. Place that to the side. Now I have a screen here. This screen has several screws that run along here, need to be removed so I can remove the screen. Again, Phillips head screwdriver. Start with this upper one here. A little tight. Let me see if I can get in there here. Yeah, it's going to be a... So actually this is not the same as the one from the manual. So let's see if it's going to be slightly easier to remove. Screw one. I'll keep them segregated from the other two screws so that there isn't any issue. Let me adjust the camera here. Make sure the picture is still decent for you. Actually, this is going to be easier than what ASUS shows in another drawing, in the fact that there's only a few screws versus 4 on each side. Number 2. Keep the screws to the side there. Now let's see what happens. Should be able to bring this clean a little bit. Okay. Now there's a few screws down at the bottom, retaining the bottom part of the tray here. Go ahead and remove these. I like to put my fingers around small machine screws like this as they get close to coming out, to prevent them from falling and lodging themselves back into areas, making it a lot harder to get them free or use them again because they get lost. And the other thing it does is it allows me to keep screwdriver tip engaged into the screw properly so I don't booger up the actual head of the screw, and it also prevents the screwdriver from sometimes dancing around, creating additional scratches or damage to the surface of the screen or the keys or other areas, or inadvertently nicking wires. It should. Okay. Move this next one here. That one is over here. Now what I'm doing on the other side here is I'm placing the screws. Spin this display around. I'm placing the screws over here in the order I'm taking them out. Even though they all appear to be the exact same thread and depth, I'm still going to put them back in the same place. Sometimes when machine screws are during the manufacture process are driven in, they actually cut a thread through some of these small pieces of metallic enclosure parts, and that thread becomes fairly unique to the individual screw. So a lot of times it's easier if you can reuse the screws in the exact same hole. They have a tendency to go in better. So let's just gently try to lift this guy out. It does look like on this particular model the webcam is possibly attached. So this may prove to be a little more interesting. There does appear to be an adhesive member there, and not quite sure. First rule is never force anything without knowing for sure. So I'm going to tilt this down. I want to inspect behind if I can to see if there's any other retaining screws that I'm missing. Looks like it is within this area here where the web camera is, and it appears to be mainly adhesive that's holding it, but let's just double check. This is a reflective some type of reflective tape there. I'll leave that attached just to see if that helps. Okay. So I'm gonna make a mental note. Camera is aligned right now with a small tang off the back of the cover plate. So I want to make sure that when I put this back in, there's an alignment that is persistent with the cover itself, which is right there. This aligns the hole so that when I go to realign it, the web camera is placed back in properly. I'm a little surprised that this would be adhered to that so aggressively to the actual display. I can understand if it was adhered to the back cover plate. I'm trying to avoid putting my fingers over that area. Okay. Alright. So, as you can see, the screen is still attached to the hinging mechanisms right here, but the back plate is free. And you can see the control board. So there's a strip here. Let's go ahead and bring that down. This is the connector. It is just already come out, but it is still adhered here with a piece of tape. Let me see if I can pull that off there gently. Let's go get a pick. Actually, we'll use tongue. Just want to be careful not to mar any connections, bend any connections. And I want to keep as much of my fingers off of the adhesive so that the film remains tacky, so that when the new screen comes in, it'll adhere to that without having the residue from my fingers. Okay, so now there are several screws here, here, and here that need to come out to remove, to allow me to have this screen free from the carrier. And I'll remove those as we speak. Okay, these are fairly fine screws, much finer than the prior set. I'm going to retain them in a separate area. I'm going to retain them again in the order which I remove them, so that I put the new one back in its place. Now, what I do want to do before progress any further, so I want to check. Similar, but slightly different. Give it a shot, see what happens. Worst case scenario is I return it and get another one. So, number 2. Gently bring this over. Now, you'll notice is the lower screen, the back plate is still attached by several wires here and here. They provide power to the camera and a signal from the camera, and they also provide connector to the screen. I want to make sure I don't cause any damage to those, so I got to be very careful as I move this around. Alright, that's number 3. And I'm going to pull these down here. Number 4. Okay. Alright. The damaged screen is now free of the notebook. Might be hard to see, but right here is the defective area or the damaged area. Kind of a shame it was an expensive replacement. This is the new screen. The screen, of course, has some protective film on it. That protective film has to be removed in order to install this. What I'm going to do is very gently pull back a lot of this tape. Just use the edge of the pliers. You'll notice right here. Pull that back. And I'll just attach it here for now. This particular laptop model comes in 2 different types of displays, matte and glossy. My original display was a glossy. I went with a glossy as well for this one. Here's the display, this film. I'm going to lay the film here just to provide a little bit of protection while I mount this into the hinging apparatus. So I'm going to go ahead and just gently lay that back into the carrier. I'm going to place the screws in the same order I removed them. This one is from this upper corner. And align my screw hole there. One thing I do not do is get hasty in delicate repairs of electronics. Rushing has a tendency, just like with automobiles, when repairing them, has a tendency to lead to more damage. So it's better to take an extra minute or so to repair things slowly and accurately versus repairing collateral damage. So I have the screws started on both sides. I haven't fully fastened them in. I want to get all 4 started before I torque them down to final tightening. Now, there aren't torque specs that I was able to get for this unit. As an engineer, I prefer to torque things appropriately, but for this particular item, torquing it down as long as I don't strip it or over penetrate the screw into the actual frame of the screen. There's no issues. So that's the fourth. Okay, now that all four are in, the other reason for doing all four before you tighten them securely down is to make sure the screen is aligned and sits more truly square when you start to tighten them down. It brings the screen in by actually putting the screw in advance. Now I'm just going to go ahead and secure that one. Come across and secure this one here. Make it so you can see this. Secure this one here now. Secure this one. And go back over here. And then just to make sure each one is secured properly, just go back and give it another check. Okay, all four are in and secured. It doesn't take much, there's only a few screws. Next is to connect the power supply and video feed. To do that, I have to bring the cover back up into the actual housing. There's a little channel that sits in. Bring the screen back a little bit. So we can do this two ways here. Sometimes it takes a little bit of persuasion, gently persuading it up. Bring this up. Now this part becomes a little bit more delicate because the connectors are very fine and we don't want to bend the terminal. Bring this down a little bit. As you can see right here, we want them to align properly. Okay. Yeah, this is proving a little more challenging because there's not a lot of give here on the cable. So I don't know if you can see this or not. Put a little more light in here. Now unfortunately my fingers are touching the adhesive, but not a lot of options at this very moment. Okay, the termination is made. Just going to secure that down with a little bit of light pressure on the tape that was originally there. And I'm going to gently bring this piece back up to meet the back, just like that. And I'm going to tilt it back as a complete set there. Now, in order to help hold this in position, I'm going to return. So get that in there. Get that in there like that. Get that. Start by fastening this upper corner. That'll help by getting this in place. I'll use my finger to protect the screen from a stray scratch. I'm not going to fully tighten that yet. Go to this one, and I'm placing the machine screws back in their original location. I laid them out on the bench here. Okay, so that's started. Now I need to fasten. I'm taking machine screws from over here. I have them laid out in the original location. Putting the machine screws back in their location. Okay. Again, I am not securing them completely down until I have all the screws in and they're aligned properly. No cross threading. Then once that's done, I'll secure each one completely. And I'm using the same technique where I use my finger to secure the screw to the tip and use the tip of my finger to keep the tool tip from wandering across other materials, scratching materials, or further damaging other components. Move this out. So again, the process is to place a screw in there, insert it in, and then I use my finger tips to just kind of keep the screw engaging properly and keep the tip screwdriver from dancing around on me. Alright, so those are the 6 machine screws securing the display. As you can see, it's still loose a little bit. Just need to go ahead and tighten them down now. Start in the upper corner here. Right here. Okay. That one's secure. Across. I'm going to secure this corner now. Tighten it down. Also, while I'm here, I'm going to make sure that any cables that run through here, which is the camera for the webcam, the cable for the webcam, and the flash, that they're not being bound by the screen carrier, and that all looks good. Before I further tighten down, make sure that my back is now aligned properly. It's in the actual socket for the hinge mechanism. That looks good, and I'll go ahead and tighten the bottom down now. Just takes a couple little turns. Let me see here. A couple little turns on the bottom. That one's good. Go across. Gonna want to protect my screen. Okay. Do another cross check. Make sure it hinges properly before I fasten the front. I also have to remove this pick, which I was using to keep the reflective film right here clear of the back cover. And I'll use that same pick just to kind of push that film back on the lighting apparatus. Basically, it's just a back reflector. That's the light. This is the camera itself, and that illuminates the user. So that's it for that piece. Next piece and the final piece is replace the bezel. Again, the bezel pretty much snaps in gently, starting at the bottom. Give it a little push to kind of get it going. Go to the edge. Start working around the edge gently, providing a little bit of light pressure. Listening for the little pop. Make sure my camera is aligned, and there's a microphone and light as well. Okay, that's the light and that's the microphone. You can barely see there's 2 holes here. Alright, so the bezel is in. Feels right. Got one more little pop here. Okay, and I have 2 final screws to secure in the lower corners. And then the last piece is to replace the rubber caps. And I'm going to keep my finger just here to help prevent my screwdriver from engaging, scratching the screen if I slip here. The alignment is interesting. Okay. Alright, so what I'll do is, actually I'm going to go ahead and pop this off. I think what I did, and this does happen occasionally, is I think that I secured the two lower screws on the hinge mechanism into the wrong screw hole. When I started this video, I said I had never did this model before, and as a result, I believe I misaligned the two. Not a problem, just simply remove the bezel again. I wish I could zoom out a little bit here on this. Push this back a hair. Just going to remove this bezel again. Okay. And yes, I did. They actually belong over here. So I'm going to relocate this screw. Right here. The good news is I don't force anything. Treat everything very gently. So if you have an issue where you've come across a difficulty that doesn't seem right, I immediately stop. I look, see what it is that's causing the problem, and try to prevent collateral damage, which in this case I just needed to go back and make sure that I had that correct. Here is the bezel again. Snaps in. Okay. That looks good. Go ahead and return the screws back to the lower corners. And voila. This time she went in no problem. Okay. Next thing to do is replace these. What I'm going to do before I replace those, so I'm going to go ahead and power the laptop back up. As you can see, the laptop is powering up. You'll notice that this thing actually powered up very quickly. I run solid state drives on my laptops. The performance for solid state drive, particularly in this laptop, is impeccable. Speed to boot is roughly 8 seconds to the screen, and access time is phenomenal. This is an i5. I've had this laptop for a couple years now. It's been a very good laptop. I run a Linux environment on it. Conversely, that's why I wanted to replace the screen. It does a very good job for me, and I actually like this laptop quite a bit. So there it is. The screen has been replaced. As you can see, I have a screen now that is fully functional. The damaged screen is over here. The damage is right here. You won't be able to see it in the camera, I don't believe. The lighting is not good enough, but trust me, it was cracked quite nicely. And there we go, and that concludes the very simple replacement of a laptop display for an ASUS R704A. Again, that's an R704A ASUS 17-inch widescreen display replacement. The display was purchased from ScreenCountry.com. Shipping was 3 days. Very easy to purchase from, no issues. Everything came as expected in extremely robust packaging. I will get the packaging and show you what they shipped us in. The laptop screen was shipped in a double protective container. It was shipped in this bubble wrapped foam container, sealed nicely, inside another container which had another layer of wrap in there as well, which I took out once I opened the package. And it was secured very well with heavy duty quality tape. And it was shipped in FedEx Express Saver, but it came, like I said, in roughly 4 days, 3 to 4 days. And it was delivered to the house, no fuss, no muss. And that was it. All in all, done. Hopefully this helps you out. Thank you for your time. Have a good night.